Okay, so I'm just going to run through my 70.3 fueling strategy and how I'm actually going to fuel for the Melbourne 70.3. So here I'm going to run 2 bottles on my bike. So I used to run way more, but now I run 1 concentrated carb bottle. I'll be looking to be consuming around about 120 grams of carbs an hour on the bike. And then I'll drop that down to around about 90 grams of carbs per hour when I'm on the run, possibly even slightly less because I have front loaded that a little bit on the ride, which is by design because I can handle more on the ride. I've been extensively testing 120 grams of carbs. If you're new to this, I strongly recommend against going on 120 grams of carbs. It is a very large amount to be taking. You can actually go a little bit more than that, but generally, and they say the safe sort of thing is to 90 grams of carbs, they say is sort of the maximum, but we'll get more into that later. So we'll start off with the bike. I'm going to have it's a 750 ml bottle, and I'm actually, because I'm fueling at 120 grams of carbs, I'm going to use a different carb blend. So I won't go fully technical, but basically, say I've got 2 different blends here. I've got Metriq Fuel Pure, which is a 2-to-1 glucose to fructose ratio. Your body can only absorb 60 grams of glucose per hour, max 70 grams. That's the general rule of thumb. So that means that you can't really go above 90 grams of carbs per hour, maybe 100 grams of carbs per hour on a 2-to-1 blend. So other ones that use a 2-to-1 blend, Precision Hydration use 2-to-1. If you use something like Morton, that's a little bit different. They run a 1 to 0.8, which means that they've got slightly more fructose in it than that. So that means you can get a little bit more aggressive with that, to where you can fuel at sort of that 100 to 110 grams per hour. But if you want to go more than that, that's where you need to step up to. I've got some Metriq Fuel Pro, which is actually a 1-to-1 blend, and that'll allow me to fuel at 120 grams to 140 grams an hour. Now in the race, I'm looking to fuel at 120 grams an hour. So in practice, I like to practice with more than that. So my session tomorrow is going to be a 90-kilometre time trial with a 14-kilometre run off the bike. So a pretty close simulation to race day. It'll be done at race intensity. So it's a really good opportunity to test it. I want to test above that range. So I'm going to try and fuel at that 140 to 150 grams per hour. And the reason I'm doing this is so that come race day, I know that I've got no GI upset. I can just roll that back to that 120 grams, and I know that I'm going to be 100% safe, and nothing should be able to go wrong on race day with my fueling strategy. Okay, I forgot a couple of key points that are vitally important. So the race I'm preparing for is Melbourne, and the forecast for today, we don't know what the day will be, but it'll likely be November, probably around 20 degrees somewhere. It is possible in November that you get an exceptionally hot day and it gets up to that 30 degrees. It's unlikely, but can happen. Melbourne weather can change. Heat will affect your fueling strategy. I will likely not be able to take on 120, 130 grams of carbs on the bike with that heat. With the heat, your body's working harder to cool the body down, which means less blood can go to your stomach and help you digest that. So it's important to factor in the conditions. You cannot absorb as much fuel in different environments, which is why you've got to test it extensively. And it's also why I'm over fueling in training. At the moment, I'm training in conditions that are 10, 13 degrees. I reckon I could fuel at 200 grams of carbs an hour and I wouldn't get a GI upset. So you've got to consider and factor in race day specific conditions. The other important one comes back to how you prepare in the days before. Doesn't matter what kind of fuel you have, whether you've got Precision Hydration, Tailwind, Metriq Fuel, what ratios you're using. If you make a mistake in the days leading up, particularly the day before, such as not eliminating fibre, that is where a lot of people will blame their GI issues on whatever they had. And they'll go, oh yeah, this didn't work for me, so they completely exclude it. When often that's not actually the cause. It's because you ate too much salad, you ate too much of the wrong fruit, and all these different things. What you actually need to do is pretty much eliminate those things, eliminate things with fibre. The day before, when you're doing a carb load, even if it's a mini carb load, if you're doing a shorter race such as a sprint or an Olympic, you need to eliminate these things. So I always say that your diet the day before a race, when you're carb loading, it should look like you're trying to create type 3 diabetes. For example, my carb load will include things like gummy bears. I'll wake up and have a can of Coke for breakfast. Often I've got to have 930 grams of carbs in the day for my carb load, which is a lot. So I'll normally have 5 or 6 cans of Coke. I'll have creamed rice or rice pudding, whatever way you want to call it. I'll have a bagel. A bagel's a really good source of it with honey on that and a banana. And then you get a little bit sick of all the sweet stuff, so I might switch to some salt and vinegar chips. Another good one is the rice cracks. It's really easy to eat lots and lots of rice crackers, and they're a good source of carbs. So the way you will eat the day before will set you up on race day. So vitally important that you get that right. If you want more information on that, whack it in the comments. We might even do a separate one on that, on what I eat. You need to test it and work out what works well for you. But the number one tip is get rid of fiber. You don't need salad the day before. You will not make any friends on race day with salad the day before or morning of. Get rid of it. So we'll get started on the Pro and mixing this bottle. Actually got to steal the scoop out of this one. Now, especially if you're new to it, I always recommend getting a set of scales. Yeah, I know I've got this set of scales, I've got a micro set of scales, and you actually look like a bit of a drug dealer, but trust me, it's important to get them, especially if you're new to this. Knowing how many grams of carbs and what it looks like in a bottle is essential. I got caught out with this at Sunshine Coast, where I made a mistake. I left my pre-made carb bottle in the fridge, which was located 20 minutes away. I got to the race and I had no carbs. Now, given I've got an aggressive fueling strategy, I actually had my coach Matt was there, and he had some precision 2-to-1, which is, I'm fine with using that, but it wasn't measured. So I had to pour it into the bottle, and I wasn't 100% sure where it was, but instead of having my 240 to 250 grams of carbs that I planned on, I think I had about 120, and it caught up to me as I got off the bike. So knowing what it looks like when you put it on, and now also having a backup pouch. I've got some ready-made pouches that are the exact measurements that I'll keep in my race day kit for if I ever make a stupid mistake again. So I've also got a handy little funnel which I use for this, and also for filling my flasks, which I use on the run. But for the time being, I'll use it on this. So turning on the scales. And I'll tear the scales and set it to grams. You can't see that, but it doesn't matter. So these scoops are a little bit under 40 grams of carbs. So and the reason I get the scales is because then I can be absolutely spot on. Okay, so that's 300 grams in there. So my ride, my 90-kilometre time trial should be around about 2 hours and 20 minutes for me at my current power and what I can handle at the moment. So there is 300 grams. So taking that off and looking what that looks like in the bottle, for me, that is well over halfway, and you might say that that's going to look a bit hard to fill. This actually mixes really quite easily. Just plain water. Don't fill it all the way to the top. Lid on. Turn it up and like to knock it off the bottom a little bit. This Metriq fuel that blends up and mixes really well just by shaking. I've used Precision, that mixes really well just by shaking as well. Give it a good shake. Add some more water. And give it another good shake. Now, if there are any small little clumps, don't worry about it. I put this in the fridge overnight. They will definitely dissolve overnight. The bottle isn't clear. I actually need to get a clear bottle. So there's a few little, tiny little, actually no, it's pretty well mixed, but that'll be fine. It'll be completely smooth by race day. The consistency at 300 grams of carb in this, it's not very thick at all. It goes down really easily. And I favour this. I used to take gels only. I favour this now. It's just a lot easier to consume. Now, the 1-to-1 blend, it is substantially sweeter than the 2-to-1 blend because the 2-to-1 that is maltodextrin, that the two parts, which basically it's converted straight into a sugar, but it doesn't have that sweet flavour, or definitely not as sweet. So this bottle, when fueling at 1-to-1, will be sweeter, just purely because it's got more fructose in it. Okay, so I set that aside, put that in the fridge, and I make sure I don't forget it. And now I'll go about filling my flasks. I've got this cool little thing to make this easy because it can get a little bit messy. Now in these flasks, you could, if you wanted, you could mix them up as a gel. And same thing, turning this back on. So mixing them up as a gel, you just basically mix more powder in with it, and use these, got nice little easy bite valves, and saves you having to carry around Morton gels or anything like this. Now on the run, I'm planning to fuel it up to 90 grams of carbs per hour. So I'll actually take 2 of these flasks. They're 250 mils each. I do have a 500 ml one, which it's too much. It sloshes around, so it doesn't get used. Whilst it sounds good, it doesn't get used, so I actually don't use that. These are perfect. You can get them, so you unzip your tri-suit, you stuff them down your tri-suit, you can't even notice they're there. They come out really easy. When they're done, they fold up to nothing, and once again, I normally leave them stuffed in my tri-suit somewhere around here. Don't want to ruin your finish line photos, take them out and put them in the back for your photos if you're that way inclined. Now I mix that up, we've got to tear that again. And now we're going off the Pro, we're actually going back to the Metriq Fuel Pure, which is a 2-to-1 ratio. And I actually like having these more as a liquid now. I used to prefer it as a gel, but and I could carry all the carbs I need in one flask if it was just a gel, but I prefer having it liquid at the same time. All right, so I've gone 75 grams of carbs in here. Unscrew this, and same thing, fill this up with a little bit of water, not all the way to the top. Now some people will get them, they'll use boiling water and they'll put it in a thing, then they'll tip it in, and it's just messy. You don't need to do it. You can put them into here, give it a bit of a shake. When you want it as a gel consistency, it might be a bit easier doing that. But this, I mean, as you see, this just mixes so easily. Half mix it, then fill it up with water all the way. And there is my gel flask for the first part of the run. I won't do the other one, basically the same process I do on the other one. And that is it for my carbs and fuel that I will need. Now, what else am I going to have? So I need some water. Everyone will notice the absence of electrolytes. I'm not going to get into the science behind why electrolytes possibly aren't needed. Each to their own. I'll get too many people jumping on top of me if they say, oh, you've got to be having electrolytes. I'll stay out of it. Do you need electrolytes? No, you don't. You don't need them. Not for a 70.3. Don't need them. Definitely not for Olympic. Definitely not for a sprint. But that said, I might pick up an electrolyte bottle while I'm riding, depending on how I'm feeling on the 70.3. So strictly, do you need them? No, you don't. But don't jump on me on that. If you want to start something separate on that, I'll put something together, put it in the comments, and we'll go from there and we'll start that. All right. Other than that, this will just have plain water in it. So I will have this one between the arms, which gives it nice, easy access. This 1 litre full of water, I have that on the back. I've got a fairing, actually not allowed to call it a fairing. I have a bottle holder on the back, which contains that. Now, I'll also carry with me on the bike some gels. These are caffeine gels. I like to have a caffeine hit. I do also have a powder that contains caffeine, but then it means I'm carrying around an extra bottle and a few other things. There's some other things I'm considering trying. Now, Revies, I'm thinking of somehow getting them, so I've already got a couple of strips open and just an easy way to grab them and put them in my mouth, which means I don't have to use these at all. And I'll also have some spare Mortons in my bento box on my bike. I've got a Canyon Speed Max CFR, so it's got really good in-frame storage. And it also has a in-frame hydration, which is 650 mils. So liquid-wise, I will have that 1 litre on the back. I will have that 650 mil in frame. So I've got, plus the liquid that's contained in there, there's about 2 litres worth of liquid, which is almost enough. But normally I will pick up 1 bottle from an aid station, which normally means that one of these bottles gets tossed. And normally it will be this one, which is a bit of a shame because I really like these bottles, but you know, it is what it is. You need to. I do like the caffeine gels on the run, so whether I have them at the back end of the ride or really early on in the run, because caffeine does take 30 to 45 minutes to cut in. And for me, I really like that caffeine to kick sort of 20, 30 minutes into the run when you've got, depending on how quick you are as well, but I've got about an hour left in the run. Maybe I've got a little bit more than left than an hour at that 30-minute mark, but we'll see how we go. And that pretty much, that's a fueling strategy. It's actually really simple. It seems complex, but it's really not. So simple fueling strategy. It's nice and easy to mix, and we're all done. I can get all this ready. So I'm going to do all this in testing and be able to then dial that back race day to a really, really sustainable level and have absolute 100% confidence in my nutrition. The information and things that I've got to be able to come up these decisions, I've been working closely with Karen Richardson at the Triathlon Nutrition Academy. She's got a wealth of experience and knowledge in these sorts of things. So I recommend checking her out if you haven't already. When I actually got into the program, I was in it specifically because I wanted to improve my body composition, and what I got was so much more. It was unexpected. I thought I already had and knew sort of decent enough nutrition, and everything in there absolutely blew my mind. I will tell you that 99% of people are doing it wrong, even your top level. Anyway, hope you enjoyed. Any questions, put them down. I'll try and answer them. I hope I haven't missed anything. If I have, we'll try and do an adjustment and go from there. Thanks very much. See ya.